Welcome to Talk Treatises. Today, we are attempting something a little different. Usually, we look at texts that announce themselves loudly as philosophy.
Right, the heavy hitters.
Exactly, the massive works of political theory or metaphysics. But today, we are taking a deep dive into a text that completely disguises itself. It pretends to be a manual on agriculture and cookery.
It really is the ultimate Trojan horse of the Tang Dynasty.
It truly is. We are looking at a work from the 8th century. And on the surface, yeah, this is a book about how to grow a leaf, how to boil water, and how to drink a beverage. But once you actually read it, and I mean really sit down and read it, not just skim it for brewing tips, you realize we aren't talking about a beverage at all.
No, not in the slightest.
We are talking about a cosmology. We are talking about a rigid system of ethics, a pathway to spiritual cultivation, and a manual for harmonizing the human actor with the elemental forces of the universe.
Precisely. If you approach this work expecting a barista's guide, you're going to be completely baffled. And honestly, you're probably going to be bored.
Yeah, you'll wonder why he's talking about the color of a bowl for 10 pages.
Exactly. You have to read this as a foundational theological text. The author effectively systematized a ritual of daily life into a way or a Tao. He elevates the completely mundane act of drinking into a high liturgy.
A liturgy is definitely the right word, because this isn't casual. It's not a do whatever feels good kind of situation. It is fiercely dogmatic.
It is extremely dogmatic. And I think we need to situate this for you. We are in what the text refers to as the Holy Tang era. This is a time when Buddhism, Taoism, and Confucianism were all swirling together in the cultural groundwater.
They're all competing, but also blending.
Right. And the author creates a synthesis here. He takes the tea leaf, this entirely physical botanical object, and frames it as the medium through which we harmonize the 5 elements: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth.
So the thesis we're working with today, the mission of this deep dive, is that this isn't a cookbook. It's a text positing that the precise mindful manipulation of nature allows the human being to embody frugal virtue and align themselves with the order of heaven and earth.
That is the core claim. And I mean, it's a massive claim for a cup of hot water.
It really is. So let's start at the very beginning. The genesis of the plant. He opens with a definition that sounds less like botany and more like scripture. He writes that the plant is a most excellent tree of the South.
A most excellent tree. Not a bush, not a shrub, a tree.
Right, and this is where I got stuck immediately, because when you think of tea, you think of those manicured, waist-high hedges in modern plantations. They look like landscaping.
Yeah, they look very controlled, very human-scaled.
But the author is describing something completely different here.
He is describing a monster. He says these trees can be 1 foot, 2 feet, or up to dozens of feet tall. He explicitly mentions that in the gorges of Ba and Yu, there are trees so massive that it takes 2 men to link arms just to embrace the trunk.
That is such a wild image. It reframes the plant entirely in your mind. It's not this delicate little garden herb. It's an ancient, towering presence in the deep forest.
It totally changes the power dynamic. You aren't cultivating a little garden plant. You are harvesting from a giant. And the way he describes the plant's features is fascinating because it's almost chimerical.
Yeah, he compares it to so many different things.
Exactly. He says the leaves are like the gardenia, the flowers are like white roses, the seeds are like those of the palm. The leaves smell like clove, and the roots are like the walnut.
It's like a greatest hits compilation of the botanical world.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's as if he's telling you this plant contains the virtues of the entire forest. It borrows the best attributes of everything else to form a perfect whole. But what interests me most about this origin section is the sacred geography he maps out.
The soil hierarchy.
Right. He doesn't just say planted in dirt. He creates a moral hierarchy of the ground itself.
This felt intensely theological to me. The idea that the ground you stand on dictates the quality of your soul. Or, well, in this case, the plant's soul.
It's a classic trope of spiritual literature. Suffering produces quality. He ranks the soil types explicitly. At the top of the hierarchy, the supreme quality grows on decayed stones.
Decayed stones, not rich, black, loamy compost.
No, decayed stones. It implies a struggle. It implies that the roots have to fight through rock and mineral just to find sustenance. The plant has to work for its existence.
And then the middle tier.
The middle tier is gravelly soil, still somewhat difficult, but the lowest tier, the tier that produces inferior spiritual quality, is yellow earth, which is your standard, easy agricultural soil.
That is so counterintuitive to how we think about agriculture today. Usually you want the easy, fertile soil. You want to make it as easy on the plant as possible.
Sure, if you want yield. But the author's saying if you plant it in the easy, soft earth, the spirit of the plant is weak. If it fights through the rocks, the spirit is strong.
It's a difference between a wild wolf and a pampered poodle.
That's a perfect analogy. The wolf has vitality because it struggles. The poodle is soft. The author wants the wolf. And he explicitly warns you against bad planting. He says if you plant it in the wrong place or cultivate it without method, the plant becomes a burden.
He compares it to ginseng in that section, right?
He does. He basically says bad ginseng is worse than no ginseng. He says superior ginseng grows in Shandong, middle grade in Beiqi, and low grade in Goguryeo.
Which were specific historical regions.
Yes. But the point he makes is that if you get ginseng from the wrong place, it's not just useless, it is actively harmful. He says the medicinal benefit is invalid, and worse, it causes the 6 diseases.
So he applies that exact same logic to our relief.
Exactly. This isn't just about flavor, it's about medical and spiritual efficacy. If you consume a plant grown in yellow earth, you aren't just drinking a bad beverage, you are imbibing a corrupted spirit.
Which brings us perfectly to the moral dimension of consumption, because he defines what this drink is actually for, and it's definitely not just for hydration.
Not at all.
He contrasts it with other drinks in a way that feels very judgmental.
Oh, he's absolutely judging. He is passing moral verdicts on your beverage choices.
Right. He says if you are thirsty, you drink water or broth. If you are depressed or sorrowful, you drink wine.
Which is a brutally honest, very practical assessment of why people drink alcohol. It's an anesthetic for sorrow.
Self-medication. But then he says if you wish to cure drowsiness, confusion, and this specific phrase, stifling feelings in the limbs, then you drink the leaf.
It's the antidote to stagnation. That is the theological key right there. Wine blurs the mind to cure sorrow. Water fills the body to cure thirst. But this drink clarifies. It strikes at confusion. It is a tool for awakening.
Stifling feelings in the limbs, that sounds like a very specific medical ailment. Is he talking about something like arthritis, or is it more metaphorical?
Well, in traditional medicine, blockages of vital energy often manifest as heaviness or stiffness in the joints. But spiritually, it refers to lethargy, sloth, the inability to act or think clearly. This drink is the solvent that dissolves that lethargy.
But there is a massive catch.
A huge catch. It is only for a specific type of person. He writes that the nature of the plant is coldly pure. Therefore, it is most suitable for those who practice refined conduct and frugal virtue.
Frugal virtue. That is the catchphrase of the entire book.
It really is. And it implies a severe warning. If you consume this cold, clarifying substance, but you are living a hot, chaotic, indulgent life, there is a dangerous mismatch.
He warns that if it's picked at the wrong time, or made poorly, or mixed with weeds and herbs, it becomes a burden and causes illness.
It can cause swelling and weakness. It's almost like receiving a sacrament unworthily in a religious tradition. If you treat the sacred plant like a common weed, it turns against you.
So to avoid the plant turning against you, you have to treat it with the proper respect. And this is where the text suddenly transitions from a soaring philosophy book into what looks like a specialized gear catalog.
Yes, the liturgy of tools.
He lists 24 separate items required for the full liturgy. 24. I mean, I have a kettle and a mug. That's 2. Why on earth does he need 24 distinct objects?
Because for this author, the process is the point. You cannot separate the result from the ritual. If you strip away the tools, you strip away the mindfulness required to execute the ritual properly.
And he is incredibly adamant about them. Later in the text, he says that if you are in a city or a wealthy home and you are missing even one of these 24 items, the whole thing is wasted.
That is some intense gatekeeping.
Yeah, basically saying you forgot the specific feather duster, so your entire spiritual practice is garbage.
Essentially, yes.
Okay.
But look at the specific tools he mandates. They aren't just functional. They are deeply symbolic. Take the water filter bag, for instance.
Yeah, it's not just a cloth.
No. He specifies it must be made of green bamboo wrapped in copper.
Why copper specifically?
Because copper is associated with water in the elemental cycle. And the green bamboo is thought to keep the flavor and spirit of the water intact. Or look at the specific feather used to dust the grinding mill.
Oh yeah, he says it must be the feather of a phoenix.
Right, which realistically meant a pheasant. But he calls it a phoenix feather. He is mythologizing the cleaning equipment. Everything is elevated.
But the absolute centerpiece of this entire collection, the high altar of the ritual, really is the wind furnace.
The wind furnace is the cosmos in cast iron. We really have to slow down here because this is the most dense theological object in the entire text. He has a portable stove, yes, but he designed it himself and he loaded it with meaning.
It's shaped like a tripod, right?
Yes, modeled after ancient bronze vessels. These were heavy cauldrons used for state rituals and sacrifices to the ancestors.
So by shaping his little stove like one of those massive sacrificial vessels, he is visually associating the boiling of water with high statecraft and ancient religion.
Exactly. He is telling you this is not a kitchen appliance. This is a temple.
And he didn't just shape it, he annotated it. He describes the legs of the furnace carrying the inscriptions of the trigrams from the ancient divination texts.
This is where he literally maps the universe onto the stove. He places the trigram representing wind at the very bottom.
Which makes functional sense for a draft.
Right. Then he places the trigram representing fire in the middle. And naturally, the cauldron sits on top, representing water.
So you have wind, fire, and water perfectly stacked.
It's an engine of elemental transmutation. Think of the furnace as a vertical battery of the elements. You have the fuel and the draft at the base, you have the energy converter in the middle, and you have the recipient on top.
Wind feeds fire, fire boils water.
The furnace isn't just heating water, it is modeling the correct, harmonious operation of the universe. When you oversee this process, you are overseeing the harmony of the elements themselves.
You're playing God, essentially. You are the conductor of the elemental symphony.
You are the emperor of your own little cosmos. And speaking of emperors, he inscribed actual text on the iron, too.
Right. There are 3 windows on the furnace to let the draft in. And above them, he inscribed specific characters.
Parsimony in conduct, eliminate the 100 diseases, and the holy Tang.
That is such a fascinating combination of phrases. You have a personal command, a medical promise, and a political allegiance, all cast in iron.
Exactly. Parsimony in conduct is the ecclesiastical rule. Behave yourself, be frugal, be disciplined while you do this. Eliminate the 100 diseases is the soteriological promise. This ritual will save you from physical and spiritual ailments.
And the holy Tang.
That is political theology. He is connecting this deeply personal, quiet ritual to the order of the broader state. He specifically references the era following the destruction of rebellious factions. It grounds the ceremony in the peace and order of the empire.
So you have the self, the body, and the state, all inscribed on the device that boils your water. He's making sure you can't just have a casual drink. You have to confront your duty to the state and your own body every single time you light the fire.
It's total immersion. You cannot escape the philosophy.
Let's move from the stove to the bowls, because this is another area where the text gets incredibly specific and, frankly, a little bit snobbish.
Very snobbish.
There was a massive debate at the time about porcelain. It was like the tech rivalry of the 8th century. You had Yue's ware versus Jingzhu ware, green versus white.
This is one of the most famous passages in art history, honestly. The critics of the time and the general public, they loved the white porcelain. They said it was like silver or like snow.
Which sounds lovely to me. Who doesn't want to drink from a snow white cup?
The author absolutely does not. He argues that this comparison is a fatal flaw. He becomes a phenomenologist of color here. He says if the bowl is like snow, which is white, it makes the liquid look red.
Because of the contrast?
Right. And to him, red is the wrong color for this drink. It looks like blood. It looks impure. It looks distasteful.
So the white bowl actually distorts the reality of the substance.
Precisely. He champions the green porcelain. He says it is like jade or like ice. It is a deep celadon green. And because it is green, when you pour the yellowish green liquid into it, the colors harmonize.
The green of the bowl deepens the true color of the drink.
It enhances reality rather than fighting it. His argument is that the vessel must serve the substance. The white bowl is trying to be the star. The green bowl humbly supports the truth of the drink.
He explicitly ranks them, right?
Oh, yeah. Green is superior, white is inferior. It's not a matter of subjective taste for him. It's a matter of absolute truth. He's saying there's a right way for things to look, and the public is just wrong.
Okay, so we have the stove, we have the bowls, now we need the raw material, the water. And just like with the soil, and just like with the bowls, he has a strict dogmatic hierarchy.
The water doctrine. This is critical. You simply cannot make holy tea with profane water.
He ranks them very clearly. Mountain water is the highest, river water is the middle, well water is the lowest.
I think we can all understand mountain water being top tier. It's pristine. But his reasoning for well water being the lowest is fascinating.
Why is that?
Because it is stagnant. It is used by too many people. It just sits there, absorbing the earth energy without any movement. It lacks life force. To him, it's dead water.
And river water.
Acceptable, but risky. He puts a massive caveat on it. You must draw it from the remote center of the river. You cannot draw it from the edge.
Because of the mud.
Mud, yes, but also humanity. The edge is where people wash their clothes. It's where the runoff comes in. The edge is where the water is tired. You have to row out to the pure current in the middle where the water is still fighting and moving.
But mountain water is the absolute best,
Yeah.
and he specifically says slow-flowing stone springs.
The key words there are slow flowing. He has a terrifying warning about rushing water. He says water that falls in cataracts, waterfalls, or torrents, violent water, must absolutely not be drunk.
Wait, I thought struggle was a good thing. I thought we wanted the plant to fight through the stones.
We want struggle, but not violence. There's a crucial theological difference here. The tree struggling through the stone is endurance. It's character building. The waterfall crashing and foaming is chaos. It's out of control.
And he claims drinking violent water actually physically harms you.
Yes. He says drinking violent water causes neck ailments.
Neck ailments. That is so incredibly specific.
It is. But think about the metaphor behind it. You consume the nature of the source. If you drink violence, you become physically ill. Your body tenses up. If you drink slow, steady, rock-filtered water, you imbibe stability.
It is transubstantiation. You are eating the landscape.
You are internalizing the exact physical properties of the geography.
So we have the perfect mountain water in the cauldron. The fire is lit. Now we enter the actual cooking process, the 3 boils. This part feels most like alchemy to me. He demands you watch the bubbles like a hawk.
You must watch it intently. You cannot set a timer and walk away. It requires total unbroken presence. The first boil is identified by the appearance of fish eyes and a faint sound.
Fish eyes, meaning tiny little bubbles forming on the bottom of the pot.
Yes. And it is at this exact moment, the first boil, that you have to add the salt.
Salt. That really threw me.
It throws everyone. It is the only seasoning he allows. And he is very specific about the amount. He says if you add too much, you ruin it. If you add too little, it is insipid. But you must add salt to harmonize the water.
We certainly don't salt our tea today.
We don't. But historically, this was closer to a soup. And theologically, the salt represents the flavor of wisdom or preservation. It wakes the water up. It prepares it for the spirit of the leaf.
Then comes the second boil.
The bubbles begin to cling to the edge of the cauldron. He describes it like a string of pearls or a fountain. This is the critical moment of intervention. You must remove 1 scoop of water from the boiling pot.
You take water out right as it's getting good.
You take a scoop out. He says this is to save the spirit or the flavor of the water, because the next stage is the third boil, where the water turns into billows and waves. It becomes violently turbulent. It's essentially old water at that point.
So you take the scoop out at the second boil to preserve its youth.
Exactly. You sequester the good water. Then you let the pot hit the third boil, the billows. The water is churning, it's angry, it's chaotic. And right at that peak of chaos, you take that saved scoop of cool, youthful water and you pour it back in.
To calm it down.
To stop the boiling, to nurture the froth, and to restore order. It's a literal cycle of salvation. You save a remnant, you let the chaos happen, and then you reintroduce the remnant to redeem the whole.
That is beautiful. It's a resurrection narrative happening inside a cast iron pot.
And the result of this whole dramatic process is the froth. He waxes incredibly poetic here. He calls the froth the splendor or the essence of the soup.
He has different names for the thickness of it, too.
Right. Thin froth is called mo, thick froth is called bo. He compares the appearance of this froth to drifting date flowers or green duckweed or the scales of floating clouds.
It's all imagery of lightness.
Yeah.
Of the heavens.
Yes. This froth is the visible, tangible manifestation of the plant spirit. If you don't have the froth, you've failed the liturgy.
And he vigorously contrasts this pure, salty froth with what everyone else was drinking at the time. This brings us to the heresy of additives. Apparently, people were putting all sorts of stuff in their pots.
Oh, it was an absolute soup kitchen before this text came along. He lists the ingredients of the old ways. Onion, ginger, orange peel, dogwood, mint. People would boil this all together into a thick slurry.
Onion and ginger tea, that sounds incredibly intense.
He is thoroughly disgusted by it. He has a specific phrase for it. He calls it ditch water.
Ditch water. Wow.
He says this is no different than the wastewater of ditches. This is the grand Reformation moment of the text. He is stripping away the superstition, the culinary clutter, the pagan additives to reveal the pure essence of the leaf itself.
He's basically saying the leaf is enough.
The leaf, the water, the salt. That is the Trinity. Anything else is corruption.
It's a call to return to the source. Simplicity as the ultimate sophistication.
Exactly. It's a minimalist revolution.
Speaking of sources, Section 4 deals with the historical tradition. He needs to prove that this incredibly strict system isn't something he just made up in his backyard.
Right. He needs to establish legitimacy. In ancient traditions, if something is completely new, it's highly suspect. If it's ancient, it's true. So he traces an apostolic succession of drinkers.
He goes all the way back to Shennong, the divine farmer.
The mythical emperor who discovered all medicines. He claims the practice began there, that he traces it through the Duke of Zhou, then to Yan Ying, the famous statesman known for his extreme frugality.
He deliberately links it to the great moral figures of history. He completely avoids the decadent emperors who lost the mandate of heaven.
Right. He links it to the virtuous advisors, the sober officials, the people who kept their heads and managed the state while everyone else was getting drunk.
And he includes some actual ghost stories in this historical section, which really surprised me. The text gets openly supernatural. Tell us about the widow.
This is such a key story for understanding the worldview. There was an old woman, a widow, who lived near an ancient grave. Every single day she would brew a pot, but she wouldn't just drink it herself. She would take a portion and pour it onto the grave as an offering.
She did this for years, just pouring it into the dirt. Her neighbors must have thought she'd lost her mind.
They probably did. But one day, the occupant of the grave, a ghost, appears to her. He tells her that he has received her offerings for all these years and he wants to repay her. And he miraculously rewards her with 100,000 coins.
It sounds like a straightforward transaction. Offer a drink, get cash.
But you have to look at the specific offering. She didn't offer wine, which is the standard traditional offering for the dead. She offered the clarifying leaf. It implies that even the dead prefer clarity over intoxication, and it validates the ritual on a cosmic scale. The spirit world recognizes the value of the brew.
Then there is the story of the Taoist master in the mountains.
Yes. Master asks him for a drink. Yu Hong dutifully serves it.
Then what does he get in return?
The master doesn't give him money. Instead, he guides Yu Hong to the great plants, the waterfall plants, the massive ancient trees, and promises him spiritual aid. It reinforces the idea that this substance is the currency of the spirit world. It's what the immortals drink.
This theme of immortals versus drunks seems to be the core conflict of the whole book. Sobriety versus intoxication.
It is the fundamental shift from the Dionysian to the Apollonian. Wine leads to wildness, a loss of control, those stifling feelings. The leaf leads to wakefulness, clarity, and ultimate control. He mentions historical figures who, in order to maintain their refined conduct, switched specifically to this drink.
It's a tool for staying human in a world that constantly wants to drag you down and make you a beast.
Perfectly said.
But staying human isn't easy. He outlines the 9 difficulties to prove it.
The 9 difficulties. This is where he really hammers home that this is a rigorous discipline, an ascetic practice. It is not a leisure activity for a lazy afternoon.
Walk us through a couple of these difficulties. What makes it so hard?
Well, there's the difficulty in roasting. He talks about drying the cake over the fire. If you hold it too close, it burns, and the outer layer chars while the inside stays damp. If it's too far, it doesn't dry at all.
And he describes the smell of a failed roast in a very disturbing way.
It's incredibly visceral. He says a bad roast smells like baby flesh.
Baby flesh. That is horrific.
Or sun-dried bamboo, but yes, baby flesh.
Yeah.
He wants you to be physically disgusted by your own failure. He wants the stakes to feel life or death.
Then there's the difficulty in fuel.
You can't just burn whatever you have lying around. If you use kitchen charcoal, meaning charcoal that has been previously used to cook meat, it smells like grease. The grease smell gets into the fire gets into the water, and the water ruins the spirit of the drink. You have to use pure, dedicated charcoal from wild trees.
And perhaps the most challenging one for modern consumers, the difficulty in drinking, the rule of moderation.
He says the practice is frugal. He literally dictates the maximum dosage. He says 1 cup is best. It concentrates the flavor and the spirit in a single mindful moment.
3 cups is acceptable.
Yes, but 5 cups. He says if you drink 5 cups, you are just quenching thirst. You are no longer appreciating the divine. You are just filling a water bucket.
Filling a water bucket. That is a stinging rebuke to anyone who chugs their morning beverage on the commute.
It completely loses its sacramental nature if it becomes bulk consumption. The essence we talked about, the heavenly froth, dissipates. The spirit is diluted by your greed.
So we have the incredibly strict rules, the exact tools, the specific fire, the purest water, the harsh judgments. But then, near the end, he offers a little bit of grace. He introduces situational ethics.
This is crucial. If he didn't include this, he would just be a rigid legalist. But he includes a section on omitting tools.
Right. He says there are times when you can leave the gear behind. Like when?
He says if you are sitting on a rock near a pine tree in the deep forest, you don't need the formal manufactured drying rack. The pine tree itself is the rack. If you are sitting right next to a clear mountain spring, you obviously don't need the ornate water storage vessel.
So if nature itself provides the sanctity, you don't need the man-made liturgical objects.
Exactly. The spirit of the practice supersedes the letter of the law, provided the environment is pure.
If you are in the city, you need all 24 tools to create a protective bubble of sanctity. You need the artificial barrier against the dust and chaos of the world.
But if you are in the wild, the sanctity is already there. You don't need to build a church if you were already standing in a cathedral of ancient trees.
That makes perfect sense. The tools are a way to recreate pristine nature within a corrupt civilization.
Precisely. It's a portable monastery.
And finally, we reach the final command regarding the text itself. He isn't subtle about how important his own book is.
No false modesty here. He commands that these laws be written out on silk scrolls, 4 or 6 panels, and hung permanently in the dwelling.
He wants the manual physically on the wall while you brew.
He wants the liturgy to be visible at all times. By hanging the text in the room, the space becomes an area where the law is permanently preached.
You perform the ritual while reading the laws of the ritual.
It closes the loop perfectly. It turns the room into a total immersive environment of dogma. You cannot deviate because the instructions are staring right at you.
It really is a religion. It has its scripture on the wall, its altar in the furnace, its elements in the water and fire, its morality of frugality, and its salvation from the 100 diseases.
And its priest, the person holding the bamboo scoop, carefully managing the boils.
Okay, that is a wonderfully comprehensive look at the source material. It is a dense, beautiful, and demanding text. But now, as we always do on Talk Treatises, we are going to take these ancient ideas and push them into the modern world. It's time for our thought experiment segment.
Let's stress test the cosmology.
Quick disclaimer for you listening. The following scenarios are for entertainment and educational purposes only. We are actively extrapolating wild philosophical concepts from an 8th century manual.
We are taking the leap.
Thought experiment number 1, the salt of the earth.
The additive dilemma.
Right. So here is the scenario. The author strictly forbids onions, ginger, mint. He furiously calls them ditch water. He demands absolute purity. But he commands, literally commands, the addition of salt during the first boil.
A foreign mineral additive. It breaks the rule of purity.
Exactly. So if we view the first boil as the moment of Genesis, the fish eyes appearing out of nothing, does the addition of salt represent the necessity of flavor? Does it represent human experience or even suffering required to make the pure water of existence actually palatable?
That is a fascinating philosophical question. If the water represents pure, undifferentiated being, and the leaf represents the clarifying spirit, why do we need the salt?
Right. Why not just pure water and pure leaf?
Perhaps the text is suggesting that absolute purity is actually bland. It is insipid. It is fundamentally unlivable for human beings.
Yeah.
We cannot exist in a vacuum of perfection.
So let's apply this to modern information theory. We are currently obsessed with pure data. Unbiased algorithms, raw facts stripped of all human context. But is pure data just like unsalted water?
Well, I see where you're going.
Is pure data completely useless to us without the salt of interpretative bias or human narrative?
That's the dickwater dilemma right there.
Yeah.
If you add too much narrative, you throw in the onions, the ginger, the mint, you get fake news. You get propaganda. You get a slurry of confusion.
Ditch water.
Exactly. But the author suggests there's a very fine line. Absolute purity, no salt, is unfinished and unusable. Chaotic impurity, the onions, is total corruption. The true way is controlled impurity, the exact right pinch of salt.
So the ethical question for you to ponder is, what is the salt in our modern systems? What is the one allowed impurity that makes a rigid system actually work for humans?
In artificial intelligence, maybe it's the temperature setting that allows for hallucination and creativity.
Yes. Or in law, maybe it's the spirit of mercy that salts the rigid letter of the law. Without mercy, justice is too cold to consume.
I love that. The salt is the necessary human imperfection that allows us to consume the absolute truth without gagging. Without it, the truth is just too cold.
Okay, thought experiment number 2. The infinite furnace. We established that the cast iron furnace is a working model of the universe. Wind, fire, water. The ceremony is a microcosm of the macrocosm.
Yes, and he explicitly tied it to the state with that holy Tang inscription. It's a model of governance.
So let's extrapolate a political philosophy directly from the 3 boils. Could we design a modern system of crisis management based on this 8th century hydrodynamics?
Let's map it out. Phase 1 is the fish eyes. This is the early warning system. The water begins to murmur at the bottom.
Right. So in a political or corporate crisis, this is the initial rumbling, the faint sound of discontent. What do? You add salt.
You add policy. You adjust the flavor of the state early on. You engage with the problem.
But then we hit phase 2. The string of pearls. The bubbles cling to the edge, the pressure is rapidly building. This is where momentum gathers and things start moving fast, and the author says, remove a scoop of water.
This is the genius counterintuitive move.
In the middle of a rising crisis, you don't clamp down harder. You actually remove a portion of the spirit. You sequester your resources.
You take the best leadership or the core values of your institution and you pull them entirely out of the fray. You protect the seed corn. You deliberately do not throw everything you have into the escalating fight.
You save it, because then comes phase 3. The billows, the water goes violent, the crisis peaks into total chaos.
And what do? You pour the saved scoop back in.
You reintroduce the pure, cool element to instantly calm the system.
It's a brilliant model for governance. Most leaders try to fight the billows with more fire. They turn up the heat, they shout louder, they deploy more force. The author says no. The fire has done its work. Now you must use the saved water, the cool wisdom you wisely set aside during phase 2 to neutralize the turmoil.
It's a political philosophy derived entirely from fluid dynamics. You cannot stop the crisis once it really starts, but you can manage its catastrophic temperature by sequestering and reintroducing the cool element at the exact critical moment.
It implies a profound truth. To save the whole, you must temporarily separate apart.
Because if you leave that scoop in there the whole time,
it boils along with the rest and becomes old. It gets exhausted by the fight. By taking it out, you preserve its vital ability to heal the whole when the time is right.
He really was the first crisis management consultant.
He certainly understood how to handle hot water.
He absolutely did. Well, that completely wraps up our deep dive into this incredible Tang Dynasty text. It's a manual that asks us to look closely at the hot water in our cup and somehow see the entire churning universe.
And to remember that how you prepare the mundane things in your life is exactly how you prepare yourself.
Keep your water from becoming old, and we'll see you next time on Talk Treatises.